right, ladies and gentlemen, this talk is actually very fun, but it's actually very interesting. What we're going to talk about today is actually very real things that we've been tracking on the web. This talk will be a little different from most of your Black Hat talks because we're going to talk about how attackers are actually monetizing attacks. We're going to show you some interesting attacks that could be monetized, and then we're going to show you some attacks that we get real checks out of. This attack actually came about on a night with a little too much Jägermeister, and we were brainstorming, so it was kind of fun. But as we dug in, we talked to SEO people, we looked at what you can do. We actually find out people are making a lot of money off some of these attacks. I'm mindless middle management, so all I'm going to do is introduce, and then I'm going to get out of the way. Jeremiah and Trey, much smarter than I am, they're going to present. And slides, so I was supposed to have a clever and funny introduction, and I actually don't have one. But if you look at this picture, this should make up for my, well, the next picture will make up for my lack of humor. Anyway, I hope you folks enjoy this. This is the net result is you should walk out of here and realize that these attacks are actually being used on the web to make money.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming. What a turnout. We're actually really glad to be here. It's going to be a really fun talk. We're not going to be releasing 0 days or cool new attack techniques. We're just going to basically make it fun, present some real-world stories and how things that we see every day can and are used to make a lot of money. This slide is not meant to pitch you in any way, but just as level set, we do assessments on all sorts of manner of websites out there in the world. I think we have the largest Web App Sec pen test team out there, and I think we're doing roughly 600-700 assessments per week. And all the data that you'll see in this comes directly from our experience doing this type of work. This is our top 10, and there's all different kinds of attacks in here, and most of the press these days, it has to do with cross-site scripting, SQL injection, and even the infamous cross-site request forgery, which doesn't make the top 10 yet, or on the list. But the ones that are forgotten often are the other ones, the ones that are given esoteric names that we talk about in vague terms because talking about them in specifics gets a particular company in trouble. So things like insufficient authorization, insufficient authentication, information leakage, and so on and so forth. So where are we at here? So while we might term these business logic flaws, they're interesting because the quality assurance teams typically overlook them. Their job is to test what software is supposed to do, not what it can be made to do. And you'll kind of see what I mean going forward. Scanners of all varieties, white box, black box, gray box, and whatever multicolor box, cannot find these things in most cases because they lack the context of what the attack might be or what it looks like when it actually works. And the same goes for web application firewalls, intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, whatever. Because the attacks that we're going to show, business logic flaws, appear completely legitimate. There's nothing hackerish looking about it. There's no meta characters or strange ticks. They all look completely real in the proper ways. But most importantly, the bad guys love these things because business logic flaws make money. Right now, again, all the press is littered. All the bad guys are using the SQL injection, the cross-site scripting. But right now in our work, what we're seeing is it's actually beginning to be much harder to find cross-site scripting and these normal types of issues in sites now. And we're thinking maybe 3 to 5 years out that those are slightly diminished. They're not going to go away, just like buffer overflows didn't go away. But the bad guys aren't going to be denied. They're actually going to start, we're thinking, going to start using more of these things because in their eyes, the real bad guys want to monetize. So I want you to also keep in mind that this talk, we're going to show some real-world tricks. So one, should you decide to use them, exercise an appropriate level of common sense. Okay? And two, the other goal is to perhaps cause a few of you to question your ethics. So without that, so I wanted to bring the first one is because business logic flaws are, or different attacks. We're going to start from $0 and end up with 5, 6, 7 figures a month type of scams. This one here, we're going to start with gaming online polling. We're going to start very, very simply. We're going to start with we see online polls all over the place. They're on every news site, every blog, everywhere, right? So there's no niche too small, too big, but we want to see what public opinion is on particular areas. And I wanted to focus in on one in particular, and this is one run by the Statesman paper in Austin, Texas. Now, there was the Westminster Dog Show, And one of the top dogs in the show was actually from Austin. So this particular newspaper said, okay, we want to see what the best dogs in Austin are, and invited anybody to put a picture of their dog up there, and said, and asked everybody to vote. Now, in this case, this particular online poll, like many online polls, there's no prize, right? It's just pure bragging rights. And in this case, again, this is a Web 2.0-ish app, and you'll click yes if you like the dog, if it's the best dog, and no if it isn't, and you step through it all, the dogs. So hundreds of dogs are entered, and and that went forward. So there's 3 ways to cheat in this particular online poll. The first one is you overwhelmingly make positive votes. You just keep voting for the same dog over and over again. That's pretty simple. There's another one where you can vote no against, the dog that you don't want to win, hit the negative votes. Or if you want to take the third route, at the last minute you can submit your dog, put 1 positive vote, and you'll win. But remember, this contest is about percentages. It's not just who has the top amount of positive votes. It's a combination of the two. They don't want dogs that people don't like. So Robert, since he's from Robert Arsenic Hansen, some of you might know him. He's from Austin. And so Robert's girlfriend's coworker asked him to help her get her Chihuahua to win the contest. So he goes forth, and he goes in like a super hacker, fires up Burp Proxy, and takes the path of least resistance. He attempts cheat technique number 1, runs it through Burp, cycles through a few thousand requests, and with 2,000 positive votes, easily boosts Tiny into first place. Okay, brilliant. Goes to bed. Everything's great. He's going to own the Chihuahua contest. So, in the final minutes of the of the contest, out of nowhere comes this Chihuahua called Choo Choo, and uses technique number 2 to throw a whole 450 negative votes at Tiny. And which still makes Tiny the number 1 dog by popular votes, but since we're doing it based upon percentages, loses by a landslide. So, here goes Choo Choo for the win, and, and that is the new face of cybercrime right there. So interesting scenario. I'm not sure what Arsenic's girlfriend felt about his lack of performance, but it's interesting. I mean, talk about web security hitting the mainstream, right? You're just trying to win an online Chihuahua poll in the city of Austin, and there's somebody else trying to hack you and do the same thing. So he tells me it's in the bag next year. So anyway, so that's one. We're going to move on to another one. I'll let Trey handle this one.
Bottom one? Okay. Artificial scarcity denial of service. This applies to a couple of different interesting scenarios where we talk about buying tickets. This could apply specifically to booking a flight, landing the seat you want on an airplane. This could deal with any type of ticket scenario where you're talking about a special event, whether this could be, a concert. This could be a sporting event. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is very simple flaw. The ability to select a seat on an airline. Now, we all know about timeouts. We all know about ending a session. But this particular logic flaw actually allows us to select a seat and come back and pay for it whenever. Now, some of you out here are going to travel regularly with work. For me, this is one of those things where, well, we verified this in a couple places. Pick the flight, pick the seat, and whenever you're ready, it'd be really great to reserve those aisle seats, right? You come back and choose this whenever you'd like. Now, we found this verified in at least 2 major airlines. One of the other places you're going to find this tied up is where you start looking to book your favorite performers, your favorite music venues. The event tickets, basically, you're going to disrupt any type of commerce transaction. You're going to lock this down to where you pick exactly what you want and eliminate all open seats for that that initial purchase. All
right, everybody's favorite CAPTCHAs. Those annoying little images, that are littering the web that are meant to combat spam. So there is a profit-making potential in these things that we found kind of interesting when we were looking into this. And so I'm going to start easy. You know, the reason we use CAPTCHAs, and CAPTCHA's been around since 2000, 2001 timeframe, and because spammers originally just love setting up free webmail accounts and things like that to spam us to death. So all the portals and even all the blogs have CAPTCHAs on them, and they're fairly ubiquitous. And those who can break these things, there is profit potential in it because spam is easier to send that way. So right now, CAPTCHAs are theoretically solved in 3 different ways, and we'll go over them briefly. One is a purely flawed implementation, where you might be able to answer the first CAPTCHA and reuse the same answer in a little token over and over again. So that's an easy one. Or what's 4 plus 1, where the answer key space isn't big enough. So there's all kinds of flawed implementations out there because it's very hard to get the CAPTCHA systems right the first time. So so that's one way. Another way that gets a lot of press out there, especially with these the release of these 2 papers, it's optical character recognition of a CAPTCHA where a piece of code can actually read the image, no matter how much noise they put in it, and see what letters are in there, and automates the process. And there has been research done that for the most part, most of the major CAPTCHAs out there are broken with an acceptable level of success rate. And then there's the third way. We call it the mechanical Turk model, and we experienced this at Yahoo almost immediately when we put ours out. And from this day, nobody knows how to defend against it. But this is the case where you have the bad guy. He'll host a website maybe for some adult entertainment or an online game. A user requests a piece of content, and before they can see the next picture, the site that he's on will make a back-end request to an online system, let's say Yahoo, Google, grab their CAPTCHA and redisplay it to the user. Once the user fills it out, then they'll get to see the next picture. So if you have a highly popular website with a lot of interesting content, you can actually get an army of people filling out your CAPTCHAs automatically. It's a very powerful thing. But it's not the only way. There's a business out there to solve these CAPTCHAs. So it was an interesting post on Arsenic's blog. He was talking to a Romanian CAPTCHA solver who says he can solve 300 to 500 CAPTCHAs per hour for the rate of $9 to $15. And he posts about this, right? And says, this is what our team can do. And we get some pretty good earning estimates here. I mean, these guys are making a whole 2 figures an hour, right? So that was kind of interesting, but not so interesting as the comments that went along with it. So immediately, there's competitors coming out of the work from Vietnam. I'm from Vietnam, and we have a group of 20 people, and our rates are just $4 per 1,000 CAPTCHAs. Okay, cool. And we hope you work. We hope work you. Okay, and so somebody from India goes, no, I can do. Hi, hope you are doing well. We, the leading data processing company in Bangladesh. Presently, we are processing 100,000 CAPTCHA per day by our 30 operators. We have a well set up, and we can give you the law rate for the CAPTCHA solving, $2 per 1,000. We just want to make the relationship for long terms. Can we go forward? Thank you. And then we had another interesting one. Babu just says he wants to do a data entry job. Okay. So before we go, so it's kind of interesting. We kind of speculate: is CAPTCHA solving legal, illegal? Who can really say? But the fact of the matter is, you're making like 2-3 figures a day. So who that cares?
The next scenario we're going to talk about deals with making money through ownership of accounts. Everyone forgets passwords, and for application security testing, password resets and online registration are 2 very highly targeted business processes. So there's this big disconnect where we talk about making the reset process and the registration process as simple as possible, but there's kind of this divergence where if it's really simple, you're going to run into problems because it's not nearly as secure. One specific, very publicized case was that of Sprint. When you start just with your online registration, actually a couple of members of the team at WhiteHat used Sprint. When they went to register online, there's a couple things you have to validate to verify who you are. First, you start with a simple piece of information like your cell phone number, And you're looking to do a couple things with this online registration. You want to be able to manage your account, pay your bill, add services, buy phones. It'd be really handy if you could do this with someone else's account and then go shopping and do things that you want for you. So they're going to start off with a couple of very simple question and answer challenges to verify an identity. And we talk about entropy and the importance of having very wide ranges of entropy or very specific types of questions. Part of the registration process, I'm going to read this to you because it's very small. Which of the following vehicle makes has been registered at the following address? This is a historical address that they've got some information that they've basically licensed a third-party company to do some background checking on you, the subscriber. Which of the vehicles has been registered to you? A Lotus, a Honda, a Lamborghini, a Fiat, or none of the above? How many of you guys have owned any of those? Okay, so the Honda is a brain-dead choice for the most part. College students, great way to get cheap phones. Don't do that. Which of the following people have resided with you or used the same address as you at, and then list out the address? This one's really easy to defeat if you know this person at all. I wish I would have known Anurag a little sooner. Jerry Stifle, there's 3 I's there. We're going to come back to that in a moment. Ralph Arjun, a couple other names, or none of the above. Now, something very interesting in this particular piece is, again, we've got random names, but this Jerry Stuffle, and then these 3 I's. First, it appears that it may have been a data entry error. My name's Trey. I'm actually a third, and so I see that. That's probably not going to be a random input. That's an easy guess, but if you know your target, that's very, very simple. The final one, which of the following cities have you never lived in or used in your address? Longmont, Genoa, Butte, or North Hollywood? We've got 3 options within a very tight metropolitan area around Washington, D.C., and then North Hollywood. Now, there's a couple really, really neat things you can do here, and for those of you that are a little bit more nefariously inclined, you can, again, go shopping, change the address, ship things to yourself. I could, charge a new cell phone for Trey to Anurag or something to that effect. But there's something that's really scary here. They have this mobile locator service. So this is one of those interesting things where you can track the location of your employees, the people using your cell phones, using that GPS, know exactly where on a map they are. Stalkerville, much. So very interesting things that are going to be exposed through this process. Now, there's this other major departure in thought that's going to happen when you talk about registration and password resets. How many of you guys use online web mail? Arsenic, you're not going to raise your hand? So there's something very interesting because for the most part, we're going to see a lot of people using webmail, using web-enabled mail accounts that are going to centralize all of their password resets. For the most part, they try to get away from these questions because they're so very much flawed. Whoa. I apologize, guys. So when you go through a password reset function, and if I know a target's email address, suddenly we want to start solving and finding a way to make money with this. We're always going to know the target's email address. You place this in here. Now you've got the ability to send a password reset for whatever account you want to manipulate back to their webmail address. You have one golden repository, a central place to steal all of their account subscriptions everywhere. Now if you could just get into their webmail. Stop smiling, Arsenic. This is huge. Everyone's doing it. The listing here for the number of registrants, people actively using Gmail, Yahoo Mail, Hotmail, AOL Mail, it's everywhere. But you don't have to go in there like a super hacker to do this. You can simply outsource it. Wash your hands. You're not involved. I didn't do anything. I simply asked a question. Somebody gave me some information. I don't know. So for 300 yen, about $43, you can have an overseas mailbox password reset with 85% probability. For 200 yen, get a domestic mailbox, about $29. And then for about $143, you can actually have the password to a corporate email address sent to you. Also on the menu is going to deal with passwords for all kinds of other services and online chats. But for the most part, we're talking about outsourcing this to gain access to all these other accounts, and then you just sell access to the account. And there's also this website, Hire to Hack. And I don't know about the rest of this where you give them all kinds of contact information for you because you're paying them to do this, but I'm amused that they actually accept Western Union as a payment method. One minor bullet to take note of. Usernames are very, very valuable, especially when they tie to email addresses. A lot of the organizations that sponsor Black Hat and other functions, anybody involved in sales is very, very interested in identifying valid names. How many of you guys only used a handle or a fake name registering for Black Hat? No one's going to admit to it. That's fine. Email addresses are very, very valuable, especially when you're doing targeted marketing, or if you're trying to verify if your spouse is, say, on an online dating site or other questionable subscriptions. But you can also go back and validate which of your consumers, your subscribers, or your prospects are currently subscribed or using services from any of your competitors. So these have a very high value. Phishers are paying money for this, and many large e-commerce portals consider the loss of a valid email address as a major breach. Since Post has published some interesting research on this front. The only way we have to battle timing attacks and attacks against this type of information leakage is time. Thank you.
All right, so we've gone through some 2 and three-figure scams. So we're going to up the stakes now. We're going to start monetizing e-coupons and move it up a notch just a little bit. So e-coupons are used for to put on top of online purchases, and one of them that we were recently communicating with was a really large online retailer, and they offered an e-commerce e-coupon program that was backed by Amex, and so a lot of the the coupons are a few bucks, maybe as much as $100 or $200, and they had 16-digit IDs, and so while they were really big, a lot of the portions of the numbers were static. They weren't all over the place. They would increment, and you can kind of guess. So initially, when they built this program, you set up an online order, and you could only apply one coupon to the order. And this sat there for, I understand, a year or longer. And then the program became really, really valuable, and larger orders wanted to be put onto the system and apply more and more coupons. So they dropped that barrier so people can put more than 3 coupons allowed on a single order. So someone developed a script that tried thousands of valid coupon IDs and ordered merchandise worth over $50,000 just for mere dollars. They got all kinds of stuff, and and they were applying 200 coupons to one individual order. So they had a good Christmas that year apparently. So the problem went unnoticed. Now check this out. The problem went unnoticed. Nobody was watching because the program was successful. We're getting a lot of coupon redeems. So during a system, because the program's getting really popular, right? During a system capacity planning exercise is when they actually saw the CPU spiking during odd hours at 90% while the person was rotating numbers. And so they called the FBI to investigate. And the problem was that the products were sent to a non-existent address. So this confused them. I mean, normally that doesn't happen. Apparently, as a result of the investigation, the person colluded with a mail carrier where the items just never got there. Mail carrier just dumped them off the truck, and they made a hefty sum. So what's interesting is we also found out that during this process, coupons are not currency, only a tool for marketing. So the investigation actually was carried forward by the Secret Service, and now the guys that did this face multiple counts of mail fraud rather than anything else because they were using the system as designed.
This is one of my favorites. The Office Space hack. How many of you guys are familiar with this? Okay, who hasn't seen Office Space? Somebody slap that guy. All right, so this is really wild. Everyone understands this process. Who here does online banking? It's okay to admit to it. Everyone here does. It's all right. Now, one of the things that's very interesting is the ability to pay bills online through ACH. An ACH payment is basically, if I were to pay, let's say I was going to buy a car from Mr. Jeremiah, I would be transferring money from my checking account directly into his. Before you set up a major transfer, your financial institution is going to transfer something very small, maybe a couple pennies, maybe a couple bucks, simply to verify we've got everything lined up. Once they verify reception of that fundage, they'll move through with a larger transfer. Now, what we're about to discuss is potentially legal, may potentially actually be allowed under the terms of service. How many of you guys do PayPal? How many of you guys have multiple PayPal IDs? Okay, and that's fair, right? That's legal. It's allowed in the terms of service. Well, imagine using that one mechanism to make a lot of money. We're talking to the effect of setting up, 80,000 of those accounts. Set up a simple script. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is when we started off with RSnake firing up a tool, a hacker tool, local proxy, to make some money, we're going to go back and make things so much simpler to where you're only using a browser at some point. Now, this particular attack, we have an individual, Michael Largent, that used a simple script to create thousands and thousands and thousands of online bank accounts. He did this with Schwab, E-Trade, and others. And he was doing the Superman hack. He would set up an ACH transfer and just verify it. He wouldn't go for the full transfer, but he was basically opening accounts, transferring money into a centralized account that he owns, and then moving that money out of the account and forwarding it on to himself. Doesn't sound that bad. It's very small money. Ringing any bells from the office space world? Now, one of the things that's very, very interesting is it wasn't inherently illegal what he was doing by accumulating all of these very small monetary amounts. But it added up very, very quickly. Google checkout, he made about $8,000. 50 grand elsewhere, and then he would take that and either pay off credit cards or forward money to himself. When the bank called, after detecting all of these accounts by this one man and asking him, why are you doing this? Do you realize you're stealing money? Oh, I don't understand. I don't know that I'm doing anything illegal. This is also a great way to forge new relationships with people like the Secret Service that follow you around and like to learn things about you. It's really interesting. All the information they gleaned on this man, when you read the affidavit, and all the links are going to be in the slide deck. One of the things that the Secret Service guy that wrote up the affidavit came back and states, I could never figure out if the guy was married, but here's all this other information on him. Now, here's the really funny part about this. It wasn't inherently illegal. He got busted on the Patriot Act. He was stealing money. Patriot Act. Why is that? Shout it out. Anybody know why? Anybody in financial services? Yes! He was using names from comic books and cartoons. They busted him for false names. Who in this crowd is not using a real name with their email address? Be very careful. It might not be legal. Now, the rest of this is, he only got busted for 4 counts of computer fraud, wire fraud, and mail fraud. It was the Secret Service. The actual act of communicating the money was perfectly valid had he used real accounts. I don't know. Legal? Not legal? Ethical? Not ethical? For the most part, it was allowed by the terms of service of the website. Maybe it was a feature.
All right, so I get to, I travel around, I get to meet a lot of people, both technical and especially those that are non-technical. And you get to the standard, the conversation, it's, what do you do for a living, what do you do for a living? I have to tell them I'm in information security. They go, oh, really, what is that? I go, well, I hack banks for a living, right? And they go, you can hack a bank? It's like a major thing, right? So, and it's always results of that. So, but what's interesting is when I start describing this, or at least how it's possible. One of the ways you can hack a bank is through an application service provider, and because application service providers, they're in the business of writing banking software, because small and mid-sized banks, they're in the banking business, right? They're not really wanting to write software, so they have all their banking software hosted by a third party, which may or may not be that interested in security, only that making sure that things operate effectively and you pay them a check at the end of every month or every year. So these are actually end up being great targets for the bad guys, because instead of hacking one bank, you're hacking 600, 1,000. Very, very interesting targets. So one particular application service provider we had a look at was hosting a lot of banks, and it had this URL structure at the bottom here. It had 3 components. It had a client ID, a bank ID, and account ID. The client ID specified each client of the ASP, so everybody got one. Each don't worry, I'll show up on the next slide. The bank ID has, for each financial application you had on the ASP, you can have the savings account system, the checking account system, the bill pay system. Each each financial app had a new ID, and then each customer account on that particular financial app had an account ID. Okay, so we had these 3 systems going for us. So, okay, great. So once again, we go in like the brilliant hackers that we are. Oh, sorry, it's still on the bottom. So how do we hack 600 banks all at the same time? So the first thing we did is, okay, we looked at the end of the URL there and said, okay, let's twiddle with this account ID here. And so we rotated it down, and we got this big red error message that showed up on the system that says, wait a minute, account X belongs to bank Y. We took its word for it, right? So we took out the bank Y ID and put it into the bank thing and hit enter in the browser again. Again, really sophisticated form of hacking. And then, again, another gigantic red error message that said, wait a minute, bank Y belongs to client Z. You can't do that. And it gave us the ID. So we go, okay, cool. We put the client Z ID into the client and hit enter, and we got access to the account that we originally wanted to. And so that was pretty interesting. We had a successful hack. In fact, we actually had access to every single bank or every single client of every single... We had access to it all. Every account on the system. In fact, the system actually had no notion of authorization at all. The only thing it checked for is that you were logged into the system. Didn't check whether or not you could pull money out, redirect money in. You had the right IDs, and you're in. So our customer, the bank in this case, not the ASP, was sending the information, our reports, to the ASP, and said, this is a problem, we need you to fix it. And we said, it's probably got to rewrite the entire app, right? I mean, like, there's no authorization in this thing. And they're like, that's going to take us a long time, so we'll huddle. And 2 days later, they came back and said, we fixed it. We're kind of impressed, right? How do they fix it in this time? So we had another look. We twiddled the URLs, right? And no more error message. Well, that was kind of cool. And so we had the brilliant idea that we were going to view source. Again, great hacker technique. You might try it out. And apparently what they did to fix it was to comment out the error message in the HTML. That was a really interesting discussion with our client. And so we didn't really know, so they kind of left it. And we said, we can't fix it. We can just tell you the problem's still there. So, off they went. And what was interesting during the subsequent conversation, so we found other issues as well. And one of them that I'll go through as quickly is reverse money transfer. And if you haven't, just oversimplify. If you wanted to transfer, let's say, this happens on a lot of banking applications. If you want to transfer $10,000 from account A to account B, this is how the formula logic might work. You would take less the transfer amount, A minus 10,000 from account A, and you would add it to account B. But what's interesting is, let's say a bank will do, proper input validation, say, okay, is this a number we're transferring, right? You can try negative numbers, and which changes the math around a little bit. So instead of sending money, you can actually siphon money out because the math works backwards. And this does happen from time to time, and you can actually get really interesting results. And there's a little reference at the bottom here. You can actually do similar types of things with rounding errors, and there's a great paper by Corsair about that we've been starting to play around with. And because numerics get kind of weird on banking systems. But at the end of it all, the ASP security contact was saying, okay, back-end business controls will prevent these issues, even though we can see the vuln. And we said, all right, if you say so. I mean, we're just there to look at the website. So a few weeks later, we got word back from our client, the bank. I'm sorry, we didn't get word back. We got this check in the mail for $2 made out to WH Test. We monetized too. we didn't catch it yet. It's actually it's still on your desk, I think. So we had 2 of them. We made $4. So that was interesting. So what we did do is we heard a couple of months later from the particular customer that $70,000 was illegally wired to an Eastern European country. The money was not recoverable because it was a little too late. And the ASP eventually lost a customer. So these things are happening. But what we didn't know, because we're not forensics people, is how many other customers were affected by the same issue. Because again, everything looks legit. It's the right URLs. You just kind of make them out of order.
Are we done at the top of the hour?
No.
Okay. Now this one's a really technical hack, so try and keep up. We all know this little TV station called QVC. I'm sure all of you shop there frequently. Now, you know that little point during the online ordering process, whatever the website is, where don't click anything, your order is being processed. I meant to back out of that. I'm going to cancel the transaction. A couple days later, you get a bunch of junk in the mail that you should have paid for. Now, this is a certified hacker, Quantina Morperi, a 33-year-old lady from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm not exactly sure what she did for a living, but I can tell you how she started making money. After an accidental transaction, she discovered, hey, I completed a transaction, immediately canceled the order, and started getting stuff. What are you legally obligated to do if you get something in the mail you didn't order or pay for? Yes, my people. Nothing. Right. So what's interesting about that? If something gets shipped and you have a free supply chain management says turn a profit. So if this is a standard business process, how does one detect this as an issue? Accounting, balancing, I don't know. I'm not good at accounting. Now, if let's say you started getting, say, 1,800 packages between May and November, you think you might know your UPS lady pretty well. What? So, how do you get caught? So if I'm too lazy to repackage it and someone gets my goods boxed in QVC packaging and someone calls QVC, it's actually pretty simple, right? Really technical, slow down. Does anyone make that much money? That's nuts. Now, what's really crazy to me is this. In the legal wrappings for this particular hack, they went so far as to talk about the UPS driver's ability to provide facial recognition of the suspect. Now, just to verify, is this legal? If you go to the Federal Trade Commission's FAQ for unordered merchandise, it says very clearly, am I obligated to return or pay for merchandise I never ordered? Is it ethically sound? I'm not smart enough to get into that conversation. I frankly wash my hands of it. But what's really interesting is what we're seeing here in this trend, in this process, is that with less and less technology, we're making more and more money.
So we're getting really, really sophisticated now. We're making high six figures, by being able to press cancel. All right. Okay, so all the stories you've seen so far, there are real references to these to read about. This is the one that's the most interesting. I'm going to take certain liberties here because this particular issue I'm going to explain, many people know about. It's been going on for years, but I cannot find a single public reference that I can cite on how much the losses actually are. As far as I'm aware, there's been no lawsuits, no criminal investigations, nothing. I've talked to industry insiders on the enterprise side. I've talked to guys on the affiliate network side. I talked to the black hats, and these guys are making a huge amount of money. So I'm going to ask for your confidence here that I've done my homework on these particular issues, that they're making 5, 6, and sometimes even 7 figures a month using these techniques. There are people in this room that can verify this if they were not bound by confidentiality agreements, okay? So I'm going to show you how these things work. All right, I just want to explain the players here. Okay, when you're looking at the whole affiliate revenue generation game. One, you have the merchant, you have some kind of website or a product that you want to get out there into the public. You're willing to pay a commission to an affiliate, somebody with website traffic. If you click on your site, they go through and they buy something, the merchant pays you a commission. You have, again, the affiliate who wants to drive customers to your cost per click campaign or your cost per acquisition campaign. Acquisition means you've actually bought something or signed up with something. Cost per click is just what does it sound. The customer is the person who buys stuff or on a promotion, and the affiliate network provides the technology glue that tracks everything in between. And there's a whole world of terminology of how the technology interplay goes. You can spend a few days to a few weeks figuring out how it works, but it's not that sophisticated. There just happens to be a lot to know. But the hacks are not that complicated. So the affiliate networks and the affiliate programs, there's all sorts of them. They're all over the place. Google has them, eBay has them, Amazon has them. There's Commission Junction. They're all over the place. There's no shortage of affiliate revenue generating systems out there. Some of you, I'm sure, are probably making a few $100s a month just driving traffic from your blog. So this is all should be easy to understand for you guys here. So this is the way the system is supposed to work. Okay, you're an affiliate. You run a little site, message board or whatever. You sign up with an affiliate program, and you get a special link that you put on your web page. It looks something like this. It points to the affiliate network. Particular program. You have your affiliate ID. We'll say it's 100. Should somebody click on it, and the browser will be sent through a redirect of some kind, and their browser will be cookied with the tracking number to tie the user to the proper affiliate, in this case, affiliate ID 100. Should at some point later the customer buy something within X period of time, could be a day, an hour, 3 weeks, forever, they'll get a commission when the user does something, like buys something, okay? So this is the way it's supposed to work, and there's big companies that make billions and billions of dollars, way more than I'll ever see. Now, using very, very effective SEO tactics, there's people out there making a lot of money, and I'll give you an example. There's a check here, and if you can't see, it's a little small there, so I'll zoom in on it right here. That's a check from Google for $132,000. This gentleman's name is Shoe Money here, and he runs a network of websites that makes ad revenue. All right. Now, that might not be enough money. Google might pay every month or two. Here's another person here. Another check from Google. Again, a little small there, so we'll blow it up. That check is for $901,000. Did I question anybody's ethics yet? Okay. The room went very quiet. All right. In the fairness of full disclosure, this check was for 2 months' worth of revenue because the bank bounced the first one for the dollar figure being too high. All right. So we know there's money to be made, and money is being paid. All right. So how do we game this system? Now we're going to enter a subject called cookie stuffing. Very simple concept. It's been around probably since 2000, 2001. But here's how it looks in 2002. Okay? We're going to go through a little bit of history here. So instead of the normal hyperlink where the user clicks on it, there's nothing that says beyond the terms of service that the user has to click on it to get this affiliate ID. Okay? You can auto-load that URL that the user would normally click on into an image source or into an iframe. So right when the user hits your page, they're automatically hit with an affiliate cookie, no matter what. Should they buy something in the future, you're getting paid, whether or not you drove the traffic or not. And the wider you can get this out, the better. So incomes all the different adult entertainment guys, SEOs. Over the last several years, they have message boards dedicated to this stuff. All sorts of things. They have scripts. If you see up the top right there, a little cookie stuffer. They have programs that do this, that help users do cookie stuffing. And it's not more than just one cookie. You could load them up with 20, 30 affiliate network IDs all at the same time. So anytime they buy something, you're getting paid. So these guys figured out 2003 to 2005, 6, and beyond, that you didn't have to put this code on your page. They were way ahead of everybody in cross-site scripting, all right? They just didn't call it that. They were putting these little snippets of HTML on social networks and message boards, on commenting on people's blogs. They were using everybody else's web traffic so they can monetize, all right? So finally, the affiliate networks got a little wise to the cookie stuffing kind of thing, and they started monitoring refers and conversion rates, and kicking out suspicious affiliates. Because the thing is, let's say you're getting an affiliate, a user click from MySpace, but this affiliate belongs to this set of sites. Something's weird is going on there. So they started kicking people out. But now these guys get a little wise. In comes cookie stuffing in 2007, and refers are cool and all, but they're not, they're not great. So the affiliates start posting their code on SSL web pages, and there's a very particular reason for this. Because the RFC states that clients should not include a refer header field on for a non-secure request if the referring page was transferred with a secure protocol, because you don't want that information leaking off domain. So all the affiliate sees is a null or a blank refer. They can't really kick you out for that. So all of a sudden now they're able to do cookie stuffing, with impunity. And if that doesn't work, if the browser doesn't support or that particular behavior, you can do it many ways with JavaScript. You can do it with meta tags. There's all sorts of ways to do this very same thing. In comes 2008, the talk going on with the next door. They have the hacks that are going to make this even more powerful with DNS rebinding, GFAR, and flash malware, and it's going to completely break the models. But it's going to take a while for anybody to figure out how to use these, because the guys that are cookie stuffing are not terribly sophisticated. They're more just evil marketers. They really don't know how to code well at all. Oh, am I put this one? Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. We've gone through, 0 through 6 figures. Let's make 7, okay? We want some real cash. Get rich or die trying. All right. Let's make some money on the stock market here. So we'll just go right into this thing. So Business Wire, this was a couple of years back now, but it's still very relevant because this stuff still happens all the time. We see it on sites all over the place. So Business Wire in this case, and for those that aren't familiar, they provide a service to businesses and also consumers of this data, where if you're a business, you put something on Business Wire, you set an embargo date for release to get it out there to a wide audience. And we have user subscribers to this information that pull the data down. When you submit something to Business Wire, you put an embargo date, and they give you a particular link URL that's predictable because they date it. When the embargo date is reached, they blast email out and they link it into the site. Okay. That's the way they do it. Now, the only security of this system is that if you can predict the URL, you can ask for it. You don't have to. They don't check whether or not you're authorized to see it before the embargo date. Just that you're authenticated onto the system. That was it. Now, seems harmless enough until because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So an Estonian financial firm, they figured this out, and again, these are not hackers, right? They're just guys that can see value when they come across it. So they started guessing for these URLs, and they were finding earnings-related data ahead of market close, and they were trading on this data. And I'm sorry, it's a little low there on the screens, but before the SEC saw it, they made $8 million trading on this information, and the SEC froze the funds. Now, think about that. These guys are forced browsing. They are rotating through guessable date URLs, and they made $8 million on this stuff, okay? So normally at this point, I usually ask audiences, this is a little too big, on whether or not this is legal or illegal insider trading or not. But I just want you, think about that, who would do this? But before you answer these particular questions, I want you to bear this in mind, this next slide here. Now, this is non-web related. But in this case, there was a Ukrainian hacker who recently broke into a company called Thomson Financial to get earnings-related data on a company called IMS Health just before the market would close, or just before it was slated to be released. So this particular person hacked in, illegal, hacked in, no question. They did the wrong thing. Now, they put in $42,000 in sell orders, betting the stock would drop. $42,000 for Ukrainian is a lot of money, okay? So they had to be damn sure they knew what was going on. Second thing that happened was that the stock sharply fell, netting them right around $300,000 in one day, in just a few-hour period. Now, red flags appear all over the place. SEC freezes the funds, okay? They go, something's not right here, right? And they launch an investigation. It goes before a U.S. judge, and the judge says, the hacker's alleged crime, stealing of trading of this stuff, insider trading, it was not insider trading because he is not an agent to the company and has no fiduciary responsibility. While the act of hacking might have been illegal, trading on illegally obtained data is completely legal, and the SEC was forced to release the funds to him. Now, the DOJ said, it was basically speculated the DOJ was probably not going to go after the person for hacking, right? Because they're probably not going to get very good cooperation from the Ukrainian authorities. So this guy just made, 300 grand easy. Now, combine that with what you just saw in the forced browsing one, and it's open season right now on the servers. And how do we see this stuff? We just don't. People are just rotating URLs and trading on trading data. So it's pretty interesting. Now, this isn't the only way we can make money on the stock market. So there's different ways. We can do passive intelligence gathering. So when online purchases are made, you get an order ID. Normally, it might be sequential or pseudo-sequential, but you can see an order. Now, pen testers, hackers, whether you're paid for or not, they do these rather sophisticated number rotations to try to see if they can get access to somebody else's data. And the system's coded properly, they won't let you, okay, to get access to serial numbers or personal information, addresses, or whatever. But we're not really interested in the personal information at this point. We're interested in the number itself. We want some passive intelligence. Okay, so let's move on there. So we can start to infer something. We run out of batteries finally? All right. Let's infer that the batteries are not charged. All right. So if you can closely estimate, let's say you ordered something in the beginning of the quarter, maybe you bought something or you didn't really matter, but you saw an order ID. If you knew how many orders a publicly traded company was set to process, you might be able to tell how the stock was going to move. If you're selling 1,000 units versus 100,000 units or whatever the numbers happen to be, you can infer something about how the company is doing that quarter. So, a lot of times these order numbers can be obtained without actually ordering anything. And so when you start inferring these things, hopefully the items won't show up anyway. So, you have orders like this, 3,200 and things like that. And so we can start to gather information passively from websites. They tell us, and we don't know if this is illegal or illegal, but only that you can do it. So we've gone through lots of different business logic flaws, and so we're going to slowly come to an end. You want to come to that one?
Sure. So I guess the simplest thought I want to bring to attention here is attackers are business people. This is about return on investment. The more technical, the more complicated, the more code, the more work involved, the higher the overhead, the higher likelihood of getting caught. There are some very profitable ways to do some of these attacks without any of that. Business logic is huge business, and they're highly motivated to do it. For detection and finding these types of flaws, this isn't something that you can simply run a scan or explore in a standard testing process. In QA, there's a psychological issue they call confirmation bias. As humans, we like to know we're right. And so we're going to test to get a true condition. You will never find this by looking strictly at code or even during a standard QA checkout process. So you've got to go through and detect these types of activities by profiling. You're not going to find these in a historical manner. You will learn the hard way. Some of these attacks were found, again, if you look back, because of a CPU spike in the middle of the night. Why? Because someone's grinding against the order processing system trying to find out what coupon codes were valid. The easiest way to detect this is when you're looking at an active attack. Historical log analysis is going to be extremely complicated.
All right. So what have we learned so far? Let's see here. Where are we at here? So one is with solving CAPTCHAs, you could probably make 3 or 4 figures. With manipulating online payment systems, you could probably make 5 figures. By hacking banks, you might be able to make high 5 figures, maybe more if you do it more than once. Scamming e-commerce, you can make 6 figures, increasingly levels of sophistication. Exploiting affiliate networks, you can make high 6 figures, maybe even 7. Gaming the stock market, easy 7 figures if you're gutsy enough. But pwning arsenic in a Chihuahua online contest, that's priceless. Roll that back. So if you want slides, obviously the newest slides are not on your CD. You can pick them up at the booth. I'll post them to my blog later. And also, I was supposed to say something about the slides. Oh yeah, that there's the OWASP AppSec conference is coming up in September, and hopefully Arsenic and I will get our act together and create some really cool stuff that we'll be releasing there. Right now, we can take some questions for those that want to ask them. There's mics here and over here.
If you want to ask questions, come up here and line up.
We appreciate everybody for your time.